Shunpeita Yamashita is expected to make his much-anticipated 2025 debut this week, so what should we expect from the young Orix Buffaloes star? The 23-year-old is one of the best arm talents in recent MPB history, and when I've talked to well-informed people in the MLB space, the name they're most interested in is almost always Shunpeita Yamashita. Jim Allen has brought up that there's this striking resemblance on the mound between Yamashita and Shohei Ohtani, and I couldn't agree more. The jersey number 11, the big frame, the electric stuff, and even the delivery all exude this aura of a generational talent. Of course, just 2 years ago, Roki Sasaki appeared to be the next chosen one, and as the famous saying goes, there's no such thing as a pitching prospect, so fans are right to be skeptical if Yamashita can actually live up to expectations. He won the Pacific League Rookie of the Year in 2023, but missed the end of the season with a lumbar injury. And it's this chronic lower back problem he has that's really thrown a wrench in his development, because otherwise he could already be generating the same kind of hype as a Roki Sasaki or Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Yamashita had a messy start to his 2024 campaign as his ERA spiked all the way to 6.38. It sort of mirrored the struggles Blake Snell was having at the time, where his command was all over the place and he rarely had the count leverage necessary to make the most of his elite stuff. He was even temporarily moved to the bullpen, but when things started to click after the All-Star break, we saw what he's truly made of again. He finished with a 1.58 ERA over the final 2 months, and his strikeout rate during that stretch was an absurd 37%. So things looked great for the Fukuoka native to take that momentum right into 2025, but unfortunately, another lower back flare-up in spring training meant he would miss a huge chunk of the year. Originally, it seemed like he could potentially return within a few months, but Orix obviously didn't want to take any risks, and it took all the way until the summer for him to even start throwing again. He then made multiple rehab appearances on the farm throughout July and August, and now manager Mamoru Kishida says that he is ready to go. What makes Yamashita such a fun player to watch, in my opinion, is that he has a very straightforward pitch mix and he trusts in it. His four-seam fastball sits in that 96 to 98 mile per hour range, which is number one among all MPB starters, and he has two great secondaries in a mid to high 80s splitter and a mid to high 70s curveball. There's quite a bit of velocity separation between those pitches, and it's a north-south profile, meaning he doesn't offer much in the way of horizontal movement. And his stuff is so legit that this works wonders. Thanks to this tweet from Lance Brozdowski last winter, we know Yamashita gets 20 inches of induced vertical break and 10 inches arm side on average on his fastball. Keep in mind the MPB ball tends to carry a bit more, and there's other stadium-dependent factors like altitude, so it wouldn't look the exact same in MLB, for instance, but that is a world-class fastball, which is how it produced a 30% CSW rate in 2024. The spin rate on his curveball has touched 2,900 RPMs, and then perhaps his best pitch, which is the splitter, has produced a gaudy 50% whiff rate since he debuted. Yamashita really only needs these three weapons to achieve what most MPB guys need 5 or 6 pitches for, especially since these are pretty platoon-neutral offerings, unlike a sweeper or changeup, for example. He can really put hitters away with all three of these pitches, and in general, he likes to elevate the heater, arm side, and then the curve is both a strike stealer towards the top of the zone and something that he can get a lot of grounders on lower in the zone. And of course, the splitter is almost exclusively something he wants to use below the zone, tunnel it, bury it, and get whiffs on. He relies a ton on the fastball, which is to be expected. He's been throwing it 60 to 65% of the time in games during rehab. We'll see that come down a bit to righties and MPB, but to lefties, he can totally stay effective while pushing the four-seam usage as much as possible, though I wouldn't mind seeing him bump up the splitter usage overall this year from 19% to more like 24-25%. He also threw one changeup last year, which happened to get a swinging strike, so that could make him a more interesting and dynamic pitcher versus lefties, who have had a bit more success against him compared to righties. And down the line, maybe he wants a cutter or something, but this is who Shunpeita Yamashita is right now, 3-pitch guy, and I just pray he stays healthy so we can watch him go to work, especially in the postseason. Now, don't expect him to go super deep into games right away, probably 5-6 innings at most, kind of like what Hanshin is doing, load managing Haruto Takahashi off an injury, but he very much is capable of double-digit Ks in just those 2 or 2.5 times through the order. He's obviously not a plus command guy. The walk rate may very well be above 11 or 12%, but so long as he's throwing enough strikes and zoning the fastball above like 54, 55%, I think we're going to see this phenom absolutely shove once again.